Hey, what's up guys, it's Renaldo here. So this video is going to focus on why outdated land claims is a terrible idea in South Africa, as well of course as the Expropriation Act and expropriation without compensation. And I'll give you an example with photos as to why this is not a good idea. Before we get into this video though, please be sure to subscribe to this channel. A lot of you that watch my content regularly aren't subscribed to this channel. I'll greatly appreciate it if you can fix that by just clicking the subscribe button. Alright, so I'm talking about the Fish River Sun Resort in the Eastern Cape that was launched in 1989 by the same individual that launched Sun City in Gauteng. Now, within 10 years after we became a democracy, and then people starting to say, well, this land belonged to my great-great-great-great-grandfather, and therefore it is my land, as well as all the upgrades that you've made to this land, which of course is absolutely ludicrous, but ultimately that is why we are where we are at the moment in South Africa, with people scared to invest in this country because 10 or 20 years from now, when people have developed the land, then somebody will suddenly come and say, oh no, but my great-great-grandfather lived on this land and it was stolen from him. Anyway, what am I talking about? Let's have a look. All right, thanks to Business Tech for this article saying former world-class hotel and golf course in South Africa in ruins after land claim. You can see on the left when it was still beautiful, and on the right after, the rightful landowners got access to it. The Fish River Sun, a world-class hotel and 18-hole golf course designed by Gary Player. By the way, happy birthday to Gary Player. He turned 90, I believe, a couple of days ago, so happy birthday. In the Eastern Cape has fallen into disrepair and the golf course is overgrown. I'm not going to go into too much detail. It just says Sol Kirshner, the founder of Sun International, developed and opened the Fish River Sun Resort in 1989. Then they go on to explain, what the Fish River Sun is. It was like a mini Sun City. That is how I can describe it, with an amazing golf course, right? But here is where the issue comes in. So the Fish River Sun land claim. After the end of apartheid and democratic elections in '94, new national gambling laws were introduced in South Africa. The casino license for the Fish River Sun was eventually transferred to the Boardwalk Hotel and Casino in Port Elizabeth in '99. This put strain on the resort, but the biggest blow was a protracted land claim by the local Prudo community, which complicated its ownership and future viability. In the late 90s, three separate communities, Mazazini, Prudo, and the Tarfield, claimed that they were the rightful owners of the Fish River Sunland. Don't you find it strange how three different tribes all proclaimed that the land was theirs? Sounds a bit suspicious to me. Over the next 2 decades, there were numerous legal battles over who the rightful claimants of the land were. On the 10th of April 2018, the Land Claims Court gave the Prudo community ownership of the Fish River Sun farms. However, by then the damage had already been done, and the uncertainty surrounding the land claim and financial pressure led to closure of the Fish River Resort in 2017. Well, why would you still keep that open if the land doesn't belong to you? I mean, it's not difficult. Although the conclusion of the land claim was seen as a new chapter of prosperity for the community, the opposite happened. Yes, because, if you get land, you need to maintain it. If you get property, you need to maintain it. Mismanagement, internal divisions, and disputed lease agreements have left the 243 million land claim, including the Fish River Sun Resort, paralyzed. South African lawyer reported that it has been a legal administrative nightmare over conflicting contracts signed with rival developers and unfulfilled promises of jobs. So this is what it looks like right now. I mean, the roof is collapsing. Over here, you can see the taxi, even the taxi as the wheels have been removed, the boot has been removed, the sliding door has been removed. It is just absurd. In May 23, personnel and the staff of the resort were chased away by a gang which demanded money and jobs. Travel News reported that from Friday to Sunday, wholesale looting and destruction of property took place. Every single room in the property was broken into, and TVs, fridges, bedding, cutlery, computers, projectors, and all IT equipment was stolen. I'm not going to go into further detail. I just want to show you there's plans to rebuild the Fish River Sun Resort. Good luck with that. That's not going to happen. But I want to show you the photos. Photos of the Fish River Sun before its collapse. As you can see, very 90s, of course, but still beautiful. The ocean close by, a lot of things for kids to do, the casino. It's just beautiful. Look at it. It reminds me of resorts when we were younger. I mean, just look at that. Little boardwalk over there. Just beautiful. Yep. And then, and then, photos of the Fish River Sun looting in 23. Look at that. Hole in the wall, in the door. They kick the door in to go and steal stuff. This fridges by the, in the roads. All IT equipment stolen. Everything that they could steal, they did steal. I think they were even drinking. Yeah, look at this. They were even drinking while they were stealing. That's nice. At the main entrance, because this is, I believe that this is the road that goes to Port Alfred over here. So yeah, I mean, right by the entrance. Fish River Sun today. Yeah, look at that. Complete and utter. Oh, that's the golf course. Oof. Gary Player's designed golf course is now nothing. Nothing. Look at that. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what happens with protracted land claims and expropriation without compensation. Just insane. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, there is a clear distinction between builders and breakers. And unfortunately, when you build something and people see that it's successful, then they suddenly want to lay claim to it. And South Africa being the way it is, you can just say that my great-great-grandfather owned the land and then courts will entertain it. And then they won't consider the upgrades that you made to the property. They won't even look at the lease agreement or the actual lease of the land that you bought. They will just go, oh, this was you bought this illegally. Because of the protracted land claims. So, in South Africa, it seems like we don't understand how the world has evolved with borders and how land was taken during, the colonization, how wars were fought over land. And yes, it's unjust. I mean, if the world was just, then the Afrikaner would not have had the British come into South Africa and almost wipe them off the face of the earth and colonize South Africa. That would have been ideal. And I'm sure for the Khoi and the Sun, it would have been ideal if white people never arrived in South Africa, as well as the Zulus and the Xhosas from Western Africa. But ultimately, here we are, and this is what we got. This is how the world works, unfortunately. Back 200, 300, 400 years ago, people used to kill each other for land. That is the way it works, and unfortunately, doesn't work out for everybody. But ultimately, they managed to get the land, and look at what state it is in right now. So what was achieved here? What ultimately was achieved? This land was self-sustaining because people came and spent money at the casino, they spent money at the resorts, and that paid for the upkeep and maintenance of the land. And now these people that wanted this so badly has got nothing. They've got worthless property. That is what they've got. Look, I'm sure there is some dumb idiot that will buy that land for an insane amount of money and then try and redevelop it. But ultimately, they had something that was worth hundreds of millions of rands, and they've destroyed it to the point where I think they'll be lucky if they get more than 10 million rand. But ultimately, this is what is happening in South Africa. You got people that proclaim that they are the rightful owners of the land, but ultimately, the only real owners of the land in South Africa was the Khoi and the Sun. Not white people, not Zulus, not Xhosas, nobody else. And yet now everybody proclaims that they had the right to this land. Also noting that by the time white people did eventually come to South Africa, there were hundreds of kilometers of open land that nobody existed on. But the moment that you eventually find a little spot and you come to an agreement with the person that owned the land and you exchange cattle, then their children's children can come back a couple of 100 years later and say, hey, you stole this from us. When in actual fact, we know that's not the case. But hey, the courts in South Africa obviously have an agenda. And it's quite clear that with the Expropriation Act, these land claims can be put on blast. and people can go and just make outrageous claims to the government, and the government can then put pressure on the people that own the land right now. That is why the Expropriation Act is a terrible idea, and also why these land claims is a terrible idea. When is the expiry date of these land claims? Because the last time it was extended, and then it was extended again, and even right now you can claim, if your great-great-grandfather owns some land, you can take it to court and you might win. Who knows? But this is just a clear example of what worked, and then that was taken over by somebody, proclaimed that belonged to them, and then it was completely destroyed. And this is a case that I can probably give you hundreds, if not thousands, of examples. Zimbabwe is also a fantastic example when land that was fertile and that was worked by farmers, white farmers in Zimbabwe, was taken over by other individuals, overwhelmingly majority black individuals, and then they completely destroyed the land. So much so that Zimbabwe actually asked a lot of the white farmers to return to Zimbabwe, and they would be given grants and money and also the land back to work it and to produce food for Zimbabwe. So this is the state of South Africa, ladies and gentlemen, where you once had an amazing Fish River Sun resort that was serving thousands of people a month, and now it's nothing. But hey, at least they got their land back, so I suppose everybody's happy. And that's pretty much all I got to say. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please be sure to smash that like button. Please be sure to subscribe to this channel. Share this video far and wide. And if you enjoy my content, and if you enjoy this channel, please consider becoming a member. You can do so by clicking the join button below. And that's all I got to say. Till later. Cheers and peace out.
You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say I went my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say I went my massacre. My massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say I went my massacre. My massacre.